just click that little button up at the top of the screen. Welcome back to the podcast. Josh Creekmore, Alex Pacheco, and welcoming to the show today, we've got Jason Folkers, who I go way back with. Jason and I both grew up in Hartington, Nebraska. Jason, where are you at now?
I am in a little town called Elba, Nebraska, which is about 35 miles north of Grand Island.
So out there in, some people would call it God's country, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I say it's where dreams were made and hearts were broken.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
It's a neat little
There you
school.
go.
It's not even 100 kids, pre-K through 12, but
What did you say? 100 kids pre-K through 12?
Not even 100 kids.
Not
he
even.
said.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I
Not
graduated with a class of 396.
Yeah.
Was
Both
my
of us-
graduating
both of
high
us,
school
even
class.
in our hometown of Hartington, Nebraska. I think I had 30 in my graduating class, and
yeah,
goodness.
I think I might have had 33 or 32.
yeah,
something like that.
between both high schools, probably less than 80 kids.
Yeah.
My
Total.
goodness. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
more kids walking across the stage. I was like, who is that? I have never seen
Yeah.
them before. That's
Yeah, no,
interesting.
these are things that, like, growing up in small towns, in every town that I ever lived in was basically, a relatively small school. And I just, that's what I feel is normal. Meanwhile, my wife, you, Alex, all went to larger high schools, and that's what you think is normal. And so, I just, it must have been crazy for you going to Morningside, where basically the college itself was smaller than your high school, probably.
Yeah, I remember taking a Bruce Forbes class and sitting there, and the topic came up of who's flown on an airplane, and it was me and another person. We're the only two, and we both happened to be from Colorado. But it was a culture shock for sure coming out, like in the best of ways. Obviously, I picked Morningside, for Doc, who really heavily recruited and, told me I'd have a chance to be on air, and just like, that's exciting. I thought I was going to be the next Stuart Scott and have some chances, and I did live my dream. I'm still, we're sports geeks. I'm still watching the GPAC championships right now. I'm following what's going on in high school sports. I can't help myself. I follow the Musketeers. It's my wife's always cracking up when she sees a basketball game on my phone. She's like, how the Mustangs doing? And I'm like, they're hanging in there. Like, it's cool seeing Trent Miller with the reins running the show at Morningside.
That's nuts, because I remember when he was playing point guard.
Yeah. And he was a great guy to interview back then.
That doesn't seem like it was that long ago, realistically, but it's crazy.
He just crossed the 100-win marker, he's starting to knock down records
he's already
already.
been there. He's already been there. What? This is probably like his 5th or 6th season, I would guess. But yeah,
wow.
That's nuts.
It's crazy you brought up the
flies.
GPAC, because my goddaughter, my cousin Jeff, which Josh knows too, my goddaughter is just finishing up her senior season playing basketball at Mount Marty. So they got the number one seed Dort, I think, in their conference tournament. So, but yeah, she's just finishing up the GPAC time. So
Dort
brought that up.
Dort.
Yep.
Dort. Yep.
The
Alex
defenders.
Yep, the defenders at Dort College out of Sioux Center, Iowa. Yeah. Anyway, so today we are obviously going to talk about some sports. Alex wants to talk about the gold medal hockey game. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about spring training baseball. We will talk about some of the, I don't even want to call it preliminary bracketology anymore, because, Joe Lunardi and all of those guys have been going, putting out projections for most of the season, and they do that as like their big thing pretty much all year now. But things are starting to get interesting. We're about 3 or 4 regular season games, depending on who we are, away from conference tournament time, which is exciting. We've got spring training baseball going strong right now, which is also exciting, especially early in the spring training go. We've got a lot of guys that when you're watching stats, you're like, oh, wow, who's that guy? He's doing pretty well. he's going to make it. And then, next week he gets cut because the guys that he's hitting off of or pitching against are, also going to get cut. Anyway, Alex, tell me about the gold medal game. I know about the political backlash, of course, that came out of that. Maybe we'll talk about that too, but tell me about the game.
The game was theater. Everyone was looking forward to Canada and the U.S. going head-to-head. First time since 2010 that you had best on best, so NHLers. If anyone followed the Four Nations, these hockey guys, if you know hockey, even just the basics of it, these guys wear their hearts on their sleeves. A hockey player doesn't go out of a game unless they have a broken limb and can't put any pressure on it. They go out and they play until they can't play anymore, and something about them putting on their colors and their country's flag and going out, with their countrymen just has brought out the best in the NHLers. The U.S. was thoroughly outplayed. It could have easily been 4 or 5-0. Hellebuck played out of his mind, 41 saves. And then you had the big guns, unfortunately, that all happened to be Colorado Avalanche and Devon Taves, Nathan McKinnon, both missing empty nets. Makar struggling to get back on defense for the game winner. But you just had everything in the game. You had a lot of big hits. You had a stick to the face that left a hockey stick in Jack Hughes' mouth, playing the rest of the game with cracked teeth, missing teeth, bleeding. If he smiles, you'll see exactly where the blade went through. He ends up scoring the game winner, and just storylines galore. He had told his brother the night before he was dreaming about scoring the game-winning goal. He wrote a letter to himself a year earlier of what he wanted to achieve and put in there, like scoring the game-winning goal to bring the gold back to the U.S. of A. Was just super exciting. 3-on-3 hockey, you can complain about it as much as you want. It ended the game a lot sooner, but at the end of the day, if you were to take off the top 10 players for Canada and then replace them, move everybody up, I still think that Canada team is favored over the U.S., and that just shows, it goes for a country that invented the sport and came and had a really great tournament, really had to sneak by a couple of teams, as all the teams did, and then just couldn't get it done in the gold medal game. You continue to look at Connor McDavid, which his last 3 championships, a Stanley Cup finalist, and a silver medal. Most would be a great resume for most players, but when you look at him as being, the next coming of Gretzky and Ovechkin, it's tough to hang your head on. And looking at one of the best players in the league that has consistently finished runner-up, no matter what team he's been on, was tough to see Crosby not in the mix, but everything you could have wanted. And I think what really captivated it was, the sports broadcasters and us fellas, Mike Tirico's little well, I'm not even sure what you would call it. His sign-off signature of the Olympic event at the end was just simply poetry. Just found out yesterday he wasn't reading from a prompter. That came off of the tip of his tongue. He said he was thinking about it throughout the game, and it came to him, and he just started talking, and that's where it took him, which I couldn't have written something like that if you gave me a full semester in a capstone class sitting in the back of, the radio studio trying to come up with that. So was a special night, special morning, I should say, getting up at 6 a.m. to watch that with the family, and pretty cool to see something that wasn't done that I've never seen in my lifetime. Was pretty cool to see those players win gold.
I guess that's why they pay Tirico the big bucks and why we get the no bucks.
He earned them. With that. My goodness.
Yeah.
You get to bring in the guy from Elba.
Yeah, hey, we'll take anybody around here. Clearly, anybody that knows you, Jason, would probably agree that if we're having you on the show, then we'll just take anybody. But
that's right.
I'm just kidding.
No, I agree.
Alex, question regarding Olympic hockey, because I'm sure that this is not new, but once upon a time, in order to be in the Olympics, you had to be an amateur athlete. How long have professional hockey players been playing in the Winter Olympics?
So how long have the professional teams been playing in the Winter Olympics? It dates back to 1916, I believe, was the first time. NHLers have been playing off and on. It's primarily been an amateur tournament. So back in 1980s, it was an amateur tournament. And then I believe it went, when it really flipped over was 96. And then it went to 2000, Yeah, it went Nagano, because I remember Paul Correa out there flying around during the Olympics, and then progressed from there up until 2010, always being designated by the collective bargaining agreement and what the NHL owners are willing to give up.
Yeah, man. And then of course, the the presidential stamp on that victory, and the victory for the women as well, because of course they also won gold in hockey. Um, Guy just has to, he just has to taint it a little bit. And so obviously the video that caught him making a joke about the women and about all of the men's players laughing, and then Cash Patel celebrating in the locker room with the team. Like, come on. I
Yeah,
just, yeah, I don't know, man. It blows me away. Really
it
does.
just like some of the stuff is just you know being involved with everything. Just there's just some things just stay out of. Just leave the politics out of sports. Leave it out of. There's already enough in them.
Yeah.
Just let it be. But
Yeah.
it is
I,
what
I
it
mean, and
is.
I'm not even necessarily, I mean, I guess some people would argue that, like, leave the politics out of sports. I would say that the stuff that has gotten so political in sports is really not political. It just,
Yeah,
our political scope has become, or has encompassed all of it, and really it just should be, stuff that we don't consider political. We won't get too much into it, but um, yeah. So transitioning into college basketball, Jason, I know you're a big college basketball fan. I'm a big college basketball fan, but I mostly just watch the Cornhuskers. You're a North Carolina Tar Heel fan. How are you feeling going into conference tournament time, and with the bracketology and who's projected as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and et cetera right now?
well, I mean, I'm a Nebraska guy at heart too, so I can't say that I don't. I watch them every time they're on. I absolutely love watching Sam Hoiberg play. Like
Oh
last
man,
night was
he's fun to
just
watch.
he's just all over the place, and the kid is so deserving of the things that's going on. Like his energy is just amazing, and so I really love watching the Huskers, and I am a Carolina fan, and I'm a Michigan State kind of guy too because I like Tom Izzo.
Yep,
So I'm gonna
he's
I'm
a
gonna be home.
class act, Tom Izzo, for sure.
Yeah, and he's always got them ready to play, and I'll be home tonight watching that Michigan State and Purdue game because that's a big one on tonight. But North Carolina is a team that will go out and beat Duke, and then the following game play Miami and look like they've never touched the basketball before. So I am really optimistic on what's going to happen come the next matchup with Duke right before the conference tournament and how things are going to shake up with it. I hope they can get themselves gathered and everybody's healthy and can play up to their standards because they are a good team, but they just falter sometimes. They play down at times, and it just is it gets sloppy to watch.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I feel like
that's
that's
college basketball.
yeah, that's college basketball. That's and that's why it's been hard for like true Nebraska fans who really growing up Nebraska men's basketball. There hasn't been a lot to cheer for most years. I think
Yeah,
we've only been in the national tournament since it's in its current iteration 8 times. And we've never won a tournament game, which, everybody wants to talk about that right now because we're the only Power Four or Power Five conference team that has never won a tournament game. Um, but we're, this 20 game win streak that they started the season on, it sort of started to feel like they would never lose. But of
yeah,
course, nobody goes undefeated, right?
yep.
Like, I mean, that's just it. There's too many games to go undefeated. It's just impossible. So we've had to adjust to the reality that, like, even the good teams are going to lose 3 to 6 games in the regular season. Probably won't win the conference tournament. Um, so the question that I have there is, what's your take on conference tournaments and how important are they because my feel is that really it's just the teams that are really on the bubble that are trying to make a run, or that the only way that they're in the tournament is if they win the conference tournament. And everybody else is just kind of like, yeah, I mean, we'll do how we do. We're in the tournament no matter what. Yeah. What's your feeling on it?
I feel like, with like the Big Ten, ACC, Big 12 sort of too, those bigger tournaments are, yeah, they're important for them. And I feel like the players obviously want to win those tournaments and things like that. But I also feel that there's like the way they're set up is different. Like the Big Ten is weird because like the top four teams get like a, what is it, 5 or 6 game bye or whatever.
It's like the first three rounds, the Big
like,
Ten,
it's crazy.
You don't have to play if you're top four, which
and so like you sit out for how many weeks? Yeah, you practice and all those things, but then all of a sudden you come off that break and you look sloppy a lot of times.
Shout out to Mom. Yesterday she texted me and goes, "Alex, Duke's getting a double bye." My sister is a Duke alum, so that's why I was shaking the bobblehead here.
Shaking the old Blue Devil.
And she texted me all excited, me and my sister. "Did you guys hear Duke's? I've never heard of this. This is amazing." I was like, "Mom, it happens every year. Yeah. The conferences are too big. Everyone gets in, relax." And she was like, "Oh." And I was like, "Man, I just ruined my mom's day. Like, what a bad son." But it's like when someone's talking in front of you in the airport and they're just like, "Hey, did you hear about man, Golden State's looking really good this year?" And you're like, "No, they're not. They're absolutely not. That's a thing
terrible.
of the past. Please stop that.
Terrible.
On to the next."
Yeah. Speaking of the NBA, that right now the San Antonio Spurs are just like on one. I think they've won 10 straight, are just breathing down the neck of OKC. And I mean, early in the year, we were like, yeah, I mean, OKC is going to be the number one out of the West. Like, there's just no question about it. They're unstoppable. And ho-hum, here comes the San Antonio Spurs, who, they have quietly just been such a great franchise, have won some championships, obviously, but it's always exciting to watch teams go on streaks like that.
It is, and it's kind of cool with that whole that conference in itself is just unbelievable, I think, and it's not, and with those two teams being so close together and the players, with Wembanyama on one and everybody on OKC, just the athleticism that you watch is incredible. I mean, it's just, but I will also say on the other side of that is I'm not a huge NBA fan, and it's just more because I love the idea of college and you get to see more defense, you get to see some of that stuff, but you're still getting into the idea of people are being paid to play.
Right.
So it's
certainly at a high level, in the major conferences and the major programs. But like, I mean, going back to that Nebraska program, like they are bottom 3 in payroll. I hate using the term payroll, but I mean, they have the third least expensive team in the Big Ten. And, they're a top 4 team in the Big Ten. And I personally don't think they can replicate this every year. Obviously, it's one of those things where everything has just kind of come together this year. They've got so much experience. To me, it feels a lot like, outside of the money, it feels a lot like what Indiana did in football the last couple of years, where they really just tried to get guys that had experience who could play well together, and they just play a certain brand of basketball. And
it was wild too.
Defense wins championships as well.
Was watching that UCLA backlash of the coach that sent his own player off, just ejected him. He looked like he was going to get thrown out regardless, but takes him off. You hear a week later, "Hey, I apologize to the guy. The only thing he wanted was 10,000 more in NIL." I'm going, man, what did I do wrong growing up? Slacking off, doing some some
I
underage,
mean, I
activities,
don't know how
and
tall
then
you are, Alex, but I don't think you're tall enough to be in the
no,
conversation.
and of course
Neither am I. Neither am I.
I
You
picked
know?
a brilliant sport in soccer. I'm not sure the D1 soccer athletes at even University of Michigan or Akron are getting 10 grand in NIL money, but
No, no.
it just goes to show like what are we like? Sports is getting insane. I look at Dickie V and listening to him on the call and getting excited, and it's like there's no more everyone's a diaper dandy, everyone's a freshman,
Yeah.
there's no long standing relationships. It's fun to watch. It's entertaining, but to be a true alum from one of those big universities has to be a little bit just kind of like you said. We'll go for it this year at Nebraska. Who's to say that we have a team like this built for the next couple of
Right.
years? Whereas the big schools are just going to continue to churn. UNC, Duke, Alabama, like they'll all be up there,
Yeah.
and challenging for a spot.
Yeah. It's, I mean, and then on the other side, like, Nebraska is not a top spender in football, but they're up there. They are, not in tier one. They're solidly in tier two. And you're already just, after the 20-game win streak, you're hearing conversations about, we've got to get more money for Fred Hoiberg and the basketball team. And so, but the difference for me in basketball, like we talked about dividing Power Five or Power Four and Group of Five in football, because what's Group of Five playing for realistically? Maybe an opportunity to get the crap beat out of you by like an Alabama or Indiana or Oregon. If you can be that one team that gets into the playoff, or you look at college basketball where there are nearly 400 teams in Division One. It's like, I think it's close to 350, somewhere in there. And most of those conferences are going to get one team in, and every now and then one of those teams will go on a run. They almost never win it or never win it, but we sort of celebrate the fun of just like the Cinderella story, even if they don't win it, because we recognize that they're really up against it. And
Yeah,
that's
but
always been
let me ask you a
true.
question. Is it important for them to win? Is Florida Gulf Coast not being a national champion the same as them just having fun and going on a heck of a run?
I mean, they gained a ton that first year that they were in the tournament where they were like Dunk University. Nobody was ready for them, right? I mean, that was, so they put their program and their university on the map with what they did in that tournament, and I think that's like a decade ago already, right? But
Don't say that.
so that's the opportunity for those programs, is to go out there and do that. But also, you see time and time again, those coaches at those small programs, they are getting their recognition by going on a run, or maybe you're just having one big upset in the tournament, and then next year they're coaching in the Power Five or Power Four, right?
Well,
Right.
Danny Hurley's a perfect example of that. He worked his way up, and now what was that, Holcomb or something like that, and ends up at UConn,
Mm-hmm.
and now look what he's done. And I mean, he's just fun to watch as a coach, just those things that he does. And the one thing that has really intrigued me with basketball now and with the NIL and all that stuff is that, you used to get all these kids that were one and done, and now they can actually kind of, dip their toes in the water and see where they might land in the draft. And if it's not where they really think they want to be, well, heck, I'm going to stick around for another year, make $1 million, make $2 million, still play college, still play basketball, hone my skills.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, I might be a lottery pick. I just think like Caleb Wilson at North Carolina is one that sticks out to me as a, freshman that's just on a tear. I mean, absolute tear. And he could be a lottery pick. He's kind of on that edge. I mean, why not stick around another year? Never know.
Sure. Or, I mean, now with it basically being free agency, unlimited every year. I mean, not that he's probably going to, I mean, there's no better program from a pedigree standpoint than North Carolina. Duke and UConn and Kansas and Kentucky. I mean, these are the blue bloods of college basketball. And so if you're already there, I mean, hopefully to stick around, they're going to really reward you for that. But if they don't, then you're heading for Kentucky or someplace else, right? I mean, and so again, I've said it again and again with college sports, I think it's good that they can get rewarded at that level for the skill that they have and what they bring to their universities, what they bring to us as fans. Their universities are making a killing off of them. They should be able to get some of that back more so than just, the cost of their education. But it's gotten crazy. And again, going back to the parity in college basketball, there's so many Division I college basketball players, right? I mean, when you're talking about 350 programs, let's just say conservatively 15 to 20 kids per roster, that is a ton of kids, and most of them are not getting anything. And so now with NIL and the transfer portal, you got let's look at CJ McCollum, who came out of Lehigh and got on the map himself because of the upset of Duke in the tournament back when he was still in college. I think that was a 15-2 upset, one of Coach K's last big disappointments in a great career. But now in today's game, he does that, and maybe that just means he's transferring to Duke or North Carolina next year because he's on the, people know who he is, and people are going to be calling him. He's going to be getting an agent and all that stuff. Maybe that guy's not just going to the NBA after that.
I agree. So, it's crazy. And I've always had that in my mind, my mindset of, I do think they needed something, because of what they do bring to universities. I didn't think it would get to what it has now. You got, and like you said, with the parity too, even if you do the parity with football, somebody at SDSU or whatever, playing offensive lineman, their NIL might be, all you can eat buffet at this restaurant for, your career. That could be
Is that not enough?
Yeah.
You give me Golden Corral 5 times a week. I'm in.
Yep. You're
sign me today.
Unlimited steak, just come on in and we'll fix you up. So but the parity on it too. But then you see some of those guys end up, playing 1 or 2 years at SDSU or NDSU or whatever, USD, and they're off to Oklahoma or they're off to Nebraska or they're off to wherever. Mm-hmm. And then they're seeing that.
That's why I think that the era of kids getting drafted or, really even catching on as undrafted free agents in the NFL out of those lower level programs in FCS and Group of 5, we're going to see that less and less because those kids, if they're good enough to go play in the NFL, they're going to have probably an extra step in there where they go play for Indiana or Oregon or Ohio State or someplace like that.
Yeah. And
so more and more, it's just going to be the Power 4 show when it comes to the NFL. Which again, I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's crazy how things just change and some of the unintended consequences of these changes as we see, the fallout over the course of, the following years here. But anyway, who do you guys have right now? If you're picking who's going to win the national championship in college basketball, who do you got?
I mean, I'm going to be a homer. I see it just being chalk. I think Duke, the way the Boozer twins get after it, the way that they've been playing ball under Shire has been unlike past Duke teams where they've had kind of some stumbling blocks. The games that I've watched, very little room for error when you play against them. They can go on runs. They can have a couple bad minutes, but Duke just finds a way to put the pedal to the metal. I just don't see any other team that's being consistently challenged. The way they played against Michigan kind of reaffirmed that for me. I feel like they've got strong rim presence and they're able to get the job done on the offensive side. You would have to have a team that could either find some more possession and just limit the amount of possessions against them. And even then, I think they're just too athletic to get the ball down the court. I think they've been close, and this is when they get over the hump this year.
I'm kind of torn between Michigan and Houston. I just how dominant Michigan has been for most of the year. How bad they are. They've just destroyed teams. They went on that run where they were just absolutely pummeling teams. And their defense is something fun to watch. And Houston is just so athletic. I mean, just super athletic. And to watch them get up and down the floor is great. But
Five slamma jamma for sure.
they're fun. They're really fun to watch. And so I like to I'm a North Carolina fan. All right. I don't and I will always be. And it doesn't hurt my feelings when Duke loses, but I also am one that gives people their props. And Duke does deserve their props. And it was I kind of have a crazy story if I can tell it real quick.
Yeah.
Last year I sent out just some emails to a bunch of different schools to see if they would send me some stuff as a guidance counselor to hang up, like pennants and things like that and all this stuff. And out of all the places, I get an autographed picture from John Shire that
Wow.
says "Go Duke" and "Best of luck, Coach Falkers." But he didn't know that I was a North Carolina fan. But to have that hanging up at my house now, I'm like, this is pretty cool.
That's pretty
mean,
sweet.
to me, that's how oftentimes that's how you win fans as a program, is by
Yeah.
doing things like that are just, I mean, obviously he didn't have to do that. So
No,
yeah.
no, yeah, just to go out of your way to send something. I get emails back from like, so the one I got back from North Carolina was, if you want anything, you have to go on the store and buy it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then Duke sends, takes the time. John Shire takes his time out to
Yeah.
address, somebody in little old town. So I like him as a coach. I think he's a great coach. Your Carlos Boozer's boys are just
Yeah, they're pretty unbelievable.
they're good.
But my take on it is they are, those guys are true freshmen.
Yeah.
And I think when things get really tough, not saying that they, are not still going to be good players and not going to have great careers, but I always look for a more veteran laden team to make a deep run. And I'm not going to say that I see Duke losing in like the round of 32 or anything like that. I think they're solidly a Sweet 16 team or better. It's hard to argue against that, but I actually think Iowa State might be due for one this year. I think that's who I would roll with. They just, you know, that Big 12 conference, to your point, Jason, I think they are unbelievable. You even go down as far as like the 14th ranked Kansas Jayhawks, and they're 20-7 on the year. They've had some weird losses here and there, but you look at that top 15 or so, and there's just a lot of teams that are kind of poised to make a run. The team that I for sure wouldn't pick is Gonzaga. I think they're heading for an early exit as usual. They're not gonna get over the hump this year, unfortunately for them. But I think Iowa State, potentially a team out of the Big 12 just in general. And if a 1 seed wins it, I think it's Iowa State. I think they're going to get a 1.
I really agree with you too on the idea of just having those teams that have the experience. Like in Alabama is one that I look at, and Texas Tech is another one that I look at, that they've got guys that have been there a little while. They've been to the tournament. They just kind of have that feeling. They have that.
And I think also, because it is a long season, right? You have to peak at the right time. And like, we've been talking about this in the Nebraska fan base. Feels like we peaked in early January. We were playing our best ball back then, and it's clearly not the same right now. I mean, we're handling the teams that are, that we should handle. But when we're going up against even like an Iowa, who is a good team, not a great team, we just had nothing for them, and that was at Iowa. We still have one more shot against them, the last game of the regular season. But, they are a team that is, they're Sturts and nobody,
Yeah.
And that guy's unbelievable. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the best players in the country, but I think you've got to peak at the right time, and that's why seeding and rankings, they matter, because if you can get a high seed, you're less likely to run up against a buzzsaw in the round of 64 and the round of 32.
I don't know. I think they matter, but it's more about playing the best ball towards the end of the year. You've seen top
Yeah.
seeds that have limped into the conference tournament, have had 2 byes, they're out, and then the thing that you don't think about is they go 2 weeks before playing one of the most important, live or go home moments. And that's where I think it really comes down to. I think people put a lot of importance in terms of conference tournaments, but you look at the teams that have been Cinderellas, they've gone far. They play back-to-back nights. They're playing in multiple cities. They're playing in the first 4 in games, and they've got momentum, which I think, especially in basketball, if you can get in a shooting rhythm or just have that swagger behind you, any team can beat any team. Whereas even if you're as powerful as mighty Duke or the other 1 seeds, Nebraska, if you lose that opening round conference game and you go 2 weeks before you start the NCAA tournament, and then the pomp and circumstance that surrounds the NCAA tournament with brackets and everyone telling you how great you are and all the gear on your bed and just everything leading up to it, you can really see some of these buzzsaw teams go down. So it's really about going in the right way, knowing your identity, knowing inbound plays, how to get out of certain situations. That's what's going to take you far in the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, and that just, to me, that comes down to experience and just grit. Being able to believe in what you're doing when things seem to not be going well. Last night Nebraska's playing Maryland, who is a below 500 team, and we didn't score in the first 6 minutes. Did not score. Came roaring back, and obviously eventually won, by 12 or 13. But you can't do that against a tournament team.
No,
you do that.
You
do that against, and they did that against Purdue. I mean, they didn't go 6 minutes in the, to start the game without scoring, but they were really, really cold to start that game against Purdue, and Purdue just pummeled them. And eventually they came back and lost in overtime, which was unbelievable. But they were in that position because they started so slowly. And Purdue is obviously solidly like a 2 or 3 seed team. So,
yeah, and you look at the last probably 5-6 games in Nebraska. They've had some injuries, a couple guys out here and there, but they have started so slow. And to me, props to Hoiberg for the season so far. But this is the time where you really got to look at, why are we starting so slow? Do we got to change something up in practice? And like I tell my basketball players that I coach, there's only 2 sports longer than basketball, and that's NASCAR and bowling. I mean, you're talking November to April. That's half a year. That's a long time.
Yep.
You might not be playing 3-4 games a week, but it's practice every day. It's classes every day. It's a lot of stuff. So
and it's
like right now is a time
staying healthy.
Fix it. Yeah.
You gotta stay healthy, and part of peaking and playing your best ball at the end of the year is being healthy. And it is, to your point, it's difficult to stay healthy over the course of a long year like that, especially when you're playing the kind of competition that these Big 10, Big 12, ACC, SEC teams are playing. They're getting beat up every twice a week. And win or lose, it's physical basketball. And so I'm excited. I know that Nebraska is they're not a national championship contender at this point. They could go on a run, you never know, but they're not. The hope is, hey, can we get to the Sweet 16? Realistically, is where I'm at. But
I just want to.
But it's just an exciting time.
Give me one win.
I love this point in the year, because you got baseball starting, you've got college basketball coming to its end, which is, I still think, the best postseason of any sport is Division I college basketball. It's just, anything can happen. It's just crazy. You just love the underdog stories that inevitably come out every single year. Somebody goes on a run as an underdog, and it's just fun. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, here I am at spring training in Arizona, and getting excited about baseball starting. But one thing at a time.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. Not really in Arizona. I wish. I really do.
Oh, we all wish we were there.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. But one of these years I'll get down there for it. But as baseball gets ready to gear up, there was an article put out on ML or from one of the MLB writers on ESPN, and they always do this kind of stuff. Way too early roster predictions for the 2026 MLB All-Star Game, which I just scrolling through it is just it's crazy because you see guys like Nick Kurtz, who, for the Athletics emerges as maybe the premier slugger in the American League by the end of the year last year, right? Like if he had played the entire season with the A's, which he did not, I mean, that guy looks like he could win a Triple Crown someday. And of course they've got him starting at first base in the All-Star game as a projection. It's hard to disagree. The guy he's probably going to have some kind of sophomore slump because typically pitchers figure you out and then you have to readjust and so on and so forth. But like that guy is unbelievable. And I think everybody wishes that he was their first baseman.
I think he had like 30, 35 or 36 home runs in like 115 games or something like that. Like
117 games, 36 home runs. He hit 290. Yeah, I mean, he just looks like he's something else. But, again, inevitably, pitchers are going to figure him out, and he's going to have to adjust. And not every player that has a great rookie year makes that adjustment. Sometimes they fall off and they disappear, and we, think about them when we watch a video of, where are they now? But it's interesting when they put out articles like this because so much of it is likely to be true. And there's always guys like Nick Kurtz coming off of a crazy rookie year. Roman Anthony for the Boston Red Sox, who I think is still only like 21 years old. They have him starting in the outfield. He's an unbelievable talent. And then you've got some of the stalwarts like Jose Ramirez, Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt Jr., who I enjoy the Bobby Witt Jr. story because I remember when he first came into the league with the Royals and they were like, well, he can hit. Everybody knows he can hit, but the question mark is, can he be a good enough defender to stick at shortstop? And now you're hearing people talk about him as maybe he's the best defender in the American League, period, at every position. And he can hit. So, I mean, you've just got some exciting players. Exciting young players that are coming up. And then, obviously the projection of Tarek Skubal as the starter, as the number one pitcher in the American League. Hard to argue with that. The only question really with Tarek Skubal is who will he be playing for by the end of the year? And will it be Detroit? But there's some question there. But that guy he's unbelievable.
He'll end up in LA. Everybody knows.
I would say most likely he's either LA or New York bound.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the league these days is if you're a really, really good player and you're looking to get paid or you're looking for an opportunity in the postseason, that's where you're heading.
Yeah.
That's just the game. But yeah, Alex, they do have some Colorado Rockies on the National League side. In these projections, not as starters.
Yeah, can I read you a sentence from this projection?
Yeah.
The problem with the NL is I ended up with nobody from the Rockies, Cardinals, or Marlins, and generously included some. So that will go on to show you how big of a stretch the Rockies, about to be 5-2 in spring league, and hope springs eternal. We are going to lose 130 games, so it'll be another fun year in Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, my take with a team like Colorado is they've been bad enough for long enough. They really do have some good prospects. The question is, when you're a team that is not going to spend a lot of money, can you get it to where your prospects, where you have 4 or 5 of these guys that are first or second year players, or at the very least on their first contract, can really put it together at the same time? And that's the only way that you're going to get your window. And obviously, I know you as a Rockies fan, you've been waiting for that window to open up for a long time, and so it's hard to have any faith in that. But you do have some guys. I had Hunter Goodman as a waiver wire pickup on my fantasy team last year at catcher, and he was very productive.
I mean, their grades preseason look a lot like my freshman year, first semester. Hit F, patience F, power D, durability F, versus righties F, versus lefties F, 0 stars, 8 holes. So I don't know how that inspires any faith in an organization. I think our only saving grace right now is holding on for a salary cap, which even then I think is a silly thing to do in baseball. The more and more I continue to look at it and read into it, there's other ways that they can do it. Maybe getting creative like an NBA model to where there's first and second aprons. So you can continue to let the Dodgers spend and let the owners spend if they're making money, but also having a way for the bottom teams to have to get up and have to, look at spending some money and moving some capital around to get better draft picks. But it's been brutal, since the last time we were in the playoffs against the Cubs, and just trying to make a run has been brutal in one of, I think, is the most underrated divisions in all of baseball. I think the parks that you have to go into, the hitter-friendly park in Coors Field, and then going into Petco, the coldest, or what is it, the coldest winter I ever had was a summer in San Francisco. Brutal park to play in towards the end of the year. I think it's really underrated for just kind of the semantics of piling together wins. When you have a juggernaut at the top, too, I mean, it doesn't make it any easier knowing that you got to play those guys, 18 times a year, and probably going to go 3-15 against them.
Yeah, and it's obviously the Dodgers are the juggernaut at the top, but the Padres have a very, very, very good team. A high dollar team. The Giants have been sneaky good. They just always seem to be competitive no matter what they do. And I mean, the Diamondbacks, a lot of people are projecting them as the team that gets back into it this year after, they were in the World Series a couple years ago. Nobody expected that at the time. Then they fall off and don't make the playoffs in, to your point, a very difficult division to get out of. But really, yeah, when you're the Rockies, it's hard not to project yourself as number 5 in that division.
How do you feel on a little bit of a change here in terms of the World Baseball Classic? I mean, I know it was big for hockey to have 4 nations. I mean, that was one of the more incredible hockey events I've ever seen for a mid-season classic. What do you feel the World Baseball Classic brings? And kind of a 2-part question. One, it's a tournament that some stars want to be a part of, and then once it gets to the later stages, they'll go and watch their team play. Sure. And maybe not be involved. They're worried about injuries and just time playing. Like, what does it mean in the scheme of baseball?
And I was kicking myself because we didn't talk about this last time. Because of course we talked a little bit about baseball and it was just like World Baseball Classic starting early March, and we didn't even mention it. But I'm glad you brought it up because I do think more and more as the game becomes a more global game, I think it is an important event. Last time was must-see TV. I mean, watching Shohei Ohtani strike out Mike Trout to win it all. What a matchup, right? I mean, and of course, at the time they were teammates. But you've got opportunities for stars of Major League Baseball to get out there and represent either their home country or the country of their heritage. Oftentimes, you see teams like Italy, they're recruiting all of the Italian kids from America to come play for the most part. Right. I mean, and I think that's cool. I think it's cool that you can go join these teams and, play for the country of your heritage. But then also you get an opportunity to see some of these prospects because some of these countries really don't have much, even if they're recruiting from, guys that have their heritage. They just really don't have much. And a lot of them it's the Central American and South American and Caribbean nations that they do produce a lot of big league talent. But on those teams, you get an opportunity to see guys that have been playing in the Mexican League or have been playing overseas someplace else or haven't made it yet. So they're a hot prospect that might not see their major league debut for another year or two, but they get to go play on a big stage in the World Baseball Classic and test out their ability against some of the biggest stars in the world. I just think it's a lot of fun. And spring training baseball, as much as we nerds like to follow what's happening and try to, project who's going to be on the opening day rosters and, what baseball cards should we sell right now or buy right now while they're low, like that's all fun and stuff. But really, by and large, it's not an exciting time unless you're just excited for opening day. So the World Baseball Classic allows us to bridge that gap every couple of years, and I think that's fun.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just one of those things that adds a little more excitement to this time of year, with March Madness and that stuff. With the, just it's just neat to see it all kind of coincide and go together. And like you said, that watching Ohtani strike out Mike Trout, that was just something you always remember. Just things like that. It's good for the game. It really is. And I wish more people around my area appreciated baseball as much as I do, because it's a game that, yeah, it might not be so fun to watch, you think, on TV, but there's so much that goes into it. There's so much game plan and just things that it's like I said, to me, it's a smart person's game. I really feel that way. Like there's just a lot of stuff that goes on that people don't really understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, over the years, I've grown to appreciate it more and more and have gotten to a point where I would say, baseball is the sport that I spend the most time watching. Part of that is because if you watch 50 games in Major League Baseball, that's more time than you're going to spend watching college basketball or NFL or college football, or hockey for that matter. But it is a sport that also it's decreasing in popularity in America and increasing in popularity globally. So it becomes a more and more global sport. And I just think overall it's good for the world. It's good for all of our competing fan bases and whatnot, just to enjoy that diversity. Before we finish out, Alex, we've got Major League Soccer. We're one game in for, I think, every team right now. And the Portland Timbers are facing your Colorado Rapids here coming up this weekend. And your feeling off air was that Colorado is not going to be very good this year.
Yeah, I mean, we have a brand new coach. We've kind of had the turnstile of coaches the last several seasons, just trying to find that right fit in terms of just coaching staff as well underneath. And, losing one of our homegrown players, traded them for some allocation money. The Rapids are one of those clubs that is not going to be your Inter Miami or LAFC, kind of one of the bigger clubs that has the opportunity to bring in high talent and has those allocation spots. So we need to be sneaky where we can, and I just don't feel like we have the experience necessary. We're a younger squad this year that's kind of putting some pieces together. It's going to take us some time. Now, the MLS season's a gauntlet. If you can remember when the MLS Cup was, it feels like it was just yesterday. So the fact that we're starting in February, yeah, I mean, the fact that I didn't even it snuck up on me going, wow, just got an alert on my phone that it's kickoff between the Seattle Sounders and the Rapids this past weekend. And just looking at it coming out is we're going to have a real tough draw in the Western Conference. I think the Timbers are, with the support that you all have, the team out there, the environment, they're getting the right players to play to their identity, where the Rapids are going to have to solve that in the first couple weeks, months of the season to figure out who they're going to be.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see for sure. But it's, like you said, it's one of those sports that sneaks up on you. I can never keep track of when it starts and ends. Part of that is because it's like a 9-month season when you include, the beginning of the year all the way through the playoffs. That's just an insane amount of time to be paying attention.
Well, it's a World Cup year too. I think the other thing that we deal with here in America is we're starting our season just as Champions League in Europe is gearing up, and you're getting to the knockout rounds, quarterfinal action in Champions League. The last couple weeks of the English Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, all those leagues are wrapping up. Coming down the home stretch of 10 to 15 games left, whereas we're just starting our 38 game league here in the States. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the players too. You're gonna have a lot of these players playing in World Cup on teams. The World Cup is right knocking on our doorstep. So you're going to have the MLS season take a hiatus, but also have a lot of replacement players come in to fill in for certain matches where teams are with their national teams and they're getting ready for the biggest matches of their life. This is the biggest World Cup ever. So it's more groups. You're having third place teams get into the knockout rounds. The board is absolutely insane compared to what it usually is. So more teams involved, more teams getting through the knockout rounds, more players, more venues. It's going to be a wild soccer year.
And later this year, we get the Ted Lasso reunion that we did not expect at the end of season 3, but it is Ted Lasso returning to Apple TV in summer of this year. So just another little thing. Whenever I've got a show that I really like and I know that it's returning in the next couple months, just a little
keeps you going, puts the wind in your sails.
Little feather in my cap, feels good to have something else to look forward to.
That's Shrinking. If you all haven't seen Shrinking on Apple TV, it's my new number one favorite show.
Just got caught up.
It's just incredible television.
Absolutely.
The thing that makes me sad about that show right now is that spoiler alert, but I mean, it's possible that Harrison Ford's going to be exiting, and he's one of those stars that I've just always been a huge Harrison Ford fan, but in this particular role, I just think he's at his very best. And he's just like the perfect dry comic relief for a show that has just a ton of heart in much the same way as like Ted Lasso. It's that it fills that same void for you. I really enjoy that show. And we look forward to it every week. So
you gotta give props to Apple TV. I mean, they put out some great shows, really.
They really have,
and they do it well.
No zingers, but the ending of the last episode, I was like, no, why are we doing this? What's happening?
I know what you're talking about, obviously, but there was a scene earlier in that episode where it was like,
Eminent.
I think she's gonna, and then she didn't, and I was like, I'm glad she didn't.
Right.
I said that aloud. I'm like, I'm glad she didn't. That would have been weird. And then the episode at the end, it's like that they're gonna,
alrighty.
That's gonna happen. And anyway, if you watch the episode, you know what we're talking about. If you didn't, you're like, shut up. Anyway, well, that is about all the time that we have because we're trying to keep this show under an hour. We did a good job with that last time. We're pushing the envelope on it this time. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll let you get back to your important job there in Elba. And thank you for being an educator and for all that you do as a coach. Same goes for you, Alex. Even though you're not a teacher, you are a coach, and that's an important job. So anyway, Josh, Alex, Jason, don't block the TV. Thanks for tuning in.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.